Senator Pamela Wallin is our guest on The Drive. When sometimes we forget that while we have been trading partners for so long, and things when things are going well, things seem to be all right. But when we heat up this rhetoric, the one thing that reminded me was the NAFTA deal that the then presidential candidate Barack Obama quickly distanced himself by saying, no, I don't want to reopen NAFTA. I want to keep trading the way Canada is. Sometimes we miss the signals that are coming from south of the border, don't we?
I think that's part of the thing. We think we know a lot more about each other, and Canadians particularly think that they know a lot more about Americans than I think sometimes we do. And we have to look at those subtleties. I think that probably when he started out in this game, Barack Obama did think, and he was certainly appealing to his political base by saying, we're going to go up there and renegotiate this. When somebody sits you down and explains to you the hard, cold facts that we are each other's largest trading partners, that we are the largest recipient of trade from 39 of the 50 states, that we do more trade with the U.S. in a week than we do with China in a year. Everybody then starts to say, whoa, okay, this is the most important trading relationship in the world, and we do have to try and make it work. And sometimes even Canadians forget about that too, about how important, we do more trade. This is always a figure that I find stunning, but we do more trade as a country, okay, with the head office of Home Depot in Atlanta, Georgia, than we do with the country of France.
Wow.
More trade with one company than we do with an entire country. So we have to make sure these trade deals work, and we need to make sure that the borders are working efficiently and that we're spending sufficient resources on all of that. And from the American point of view, this is a country with 5% of the world's population that uses 40% of the world's energy supply. And where do they get most of their oil and their gas and their hydroelectricity from? Not Iraq and not Saudi Arabia, Canada. So when that penny drops from them, then we all come back to the table and say, you know what, we need some calm, cool, collected conversations about how to make this work. And that's why I think it's great that the Prime Minister and the President have had all this contact. Very quiet, not a lot of fuss and muss, but stuff's getting done.
Sometimes, though, when we see the Canadian Prime Minister, in this case Mr. Harper, and the U.S. President talking and getting close together, sometimes I hate to use it because it's been used before. Does our Canadian inferiority complex start to kick in, and then we start getting worried that we're getting too closey with our American neighbors?
This has been going on forever. I remember reading the words of Lester Pearson somewhere way back that, when the Americans don't pay any attention to us, we're hurt and offended. And when they do, we get our backs up because, they're interfering and paying too much attention to us. I mean, I do think that we need to get past our inferiority complex. We are an amazing country. We're now starting to really, no longer just be that spectator nation. We're taking our responsibilities on the international stage in places like Afghanistan. Everybody around the world is so respectful of what we're doing. And, these little conversations, and people will have heard this story before, but I remember one night sitting there with the NYPD commissioner, the head of the New York police force, who went off to answer his BlackBerry that was buzzing, and he came back to the table to apologize for, having to answer this BlackBerry. And I just looked at him and said, look, I'm really glad we could help you out. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, we invented those things. And he just said, no kidding. They assumed, of course, that it probably came from Japan or some Asian country, and we got into a whole discussion about how incredible it was that they were living right next door to the country that, invented it. And he said, I need 50,000 of these. I need these for my cops on the street. It's just that sometimes we don't sell our own story very effectively either, because we're busy kind of flexing our muscle instead of really telling a story about our own success, which is very compelling.
Senator Wallin, we only have a few minutes left with you here on the drive, and I'd like to ask you this in closing: is we seem to be at a period in our relationship where things, I'd like to use the word cooler heads have prevailed in some instances, but hopefully we can see eye to eye with one another, disagree where we need to,
right?
But then move forward.
Disagree, but disagree when we have to agreeably. You know, it's just really, we are two grown-up countries, and we should be able to sit down and resolve some differences. That doesn't mean we're not going to have a fight from time to time. I mean, there's always going to be trade disputes in a country, in a relationship that's as large as this, billions of dollars a year, hundreds of millions of crossings across those border of our respective citizens. I mean, this is a huge integrated economic market, and there's going to be disagreements. But we can't have this inferiority as complex as you describe it when we go into this. Of course they're bigger than we are. They're 10 times bigger than we are economically. But that just means we have to be smarter in the way we approach it.
Senator Wallin, we really appreciate you giving up of your time this afternoon and joining us here on The Drive.
Great to talk with you, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Okay.